My friends, welcome to the June edition of Connections. This month, the month of June, is the month in which the Church holds up to us the Feast of the Most Sacred Heart of Jesus. We try to open our own hearts in imitation of the pierced heart of Jesus. Yesterday, the Church celebrated the Feast of Our Lady of Perpetual Help, one of the most cherished icons in the entire Eastern world, in all the countries where CNEWA is at work. And today, we celebrate the feast of Saint Irenaeus, a 2nd century martyr declared just last year by Pope Francis to be the 37th doctor of the Church and doctor of unity. And so as our opening prayer, as our opening meditation, I recommend that for all of us, we open our hearts to that help that comes to us from Our Lady of Perpetual Help, and we all seek to be agents of healing, agents of hope, and agents of bringing people together as we bring all people to the source of healing in the heart of Jesus. As we begin our program tonight, once again, I invite you to send any of your comments to the YouTube chat or to Facebook. I'd like to just offer a few backup comments from the last time that we were together back on May 24th. Perhaps you will recall that on May 24th, we were together just before the Memorial Day weekend. As we come together tonight, we come together just before the July 4th weekend. And so in these days, we reflect in a very serious way and we pray. We pray for our republic. We pray for peace here, to an end to all violence within our republic of all forms. You recall also at the last meeting on May 24th, it was just a week after the great event of our inaugural annual Golf Classic. And once again, I thank all of you who were so generous toward us. I thank Mr. Anthony McLaughlin, who chaired the golf event, the committee that worked so hard on the event, the team here at CNEWA, our development team, and all of those who are involved here in terms of development, communications, creative services. This was a great event on May 18th, and it was great to begin this annual event at the Plandome Country Club. It was also at the last meeting that I did make reference to the fact that we have a number of anniversaries coming up to celebrate at CNEWA. We'll be celebrating the 75th anniversary next year of our offices in the Middle East. We'll be celebrating in our Jubilee year. We'll be celebrating the Jubilee year in Rome in 2025. And then, of course, we'll be celebrating our centennial with a pilgrimage to the Holy Land in 2026. Since we were last together, it was in early June, from June 2nd to June 8th, that I traveled to Ukraine. And there, in the company of our national director in Canada, Dr. Adriana Bara, and Anna Dombrovska. Anna Dombrovska is our projects officer in Ottawa, and also one whose own Ukrainian roots and who has done so much to keep us in communication with our multiple partners in Ukraine. And so it was for Anna and for Adriana and myself a very powerful visit to be able to go through and to meet with our partners in Ukraine as we tried to visit sites where, thanks to you, your generosity, your donations make possible what we did. You see in the image before you, the three of us at a warehouse, and at the warehouse there, we are putting food into boxes that will be distributed to those who are most in need. It was a very important moment in terms of us being able to give witness to the generosity of the CNEWA donors, and I thank you for that generosity. In addition to that, during the time of our visit there, we were also able to visit one of the centers for internally displaced people. This center houses 80 people. And the woman that you're looking at here is one of those 80 inhabitants of this particular little place that CNEWA supports, that you support in our work with our partners, especially with Caritas Ukraine and with the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church in Ukraine. She had been moved into this home for displaced people. Hours before we arrived there was when the bombing of the hydroelectric plant over the dam took place, and she learned that her home had been washed out. And so at that point, she approached us in terms of the time that we were together, and in language that is only known from the sorrows that come from the heart and through tears, communicated, and I was helped there by one of the communications team for the Ukrainian Greek from the Ukrainian Greek eparchy, as we tried to console her, and eventually found not the words, but in the simple donation for me of a pair of rosary beads that she took and began to pray with at that moment. We continue to remember her in prayer. I ask you to remember her. She's a 92-year-old internally displaced person who knows now she has no other home to go to. And so thanks to you, she has a place to be. Yes, the visit to Ukraine was a powerful one. And of course, it culminated here in the visit that with Dr. Adriana Bara and Anna Dombrovska, we had with the major Archbishop Sviatoslav Shevchuk. During the time of the visit with Archbishop Shevchuk, one of the things that he made very clear to us, I thank you for making our voice known to the world. That was his message for the people in CNEWA. That was his message to us on the occasion of our visit. And he pleaded there that we not be engaged, and I'm sure that we won't, with any kind of humanitarian fatigue. Over the next 6 months, among the priorities that the Archbishop had was the fact that there will probably be in the neighborhood of maybe 18 million people who now will be subject to extreme need on a humanitarian effort. And so I ask you to continue to be generous to the efforts that CNEWA makes with its partners in Ukraine to bring assistance to those who are most in need. And finally, last week I was in Rome. I was in Rome for the plenary session of the agencies that come together with the dicastery for the Eastern churches to discuss where things are with the various countries where all the agencies are working. And finally, to spend a little bit of time, well, at the conclusion of the meeting with the agencies, you see there we were received an audience by Pope Francis. Pope Francis distributed his text on the occasion of this particular visit. He was not able to deliver the text, but he distributed the text and again wanted to express his gratitude to all of us, all of the aid agencies, including CNEWA, for the support that we give as a papal agency to those who are most in need throughout the CNEWA world. And I thank you. The Holy Father thanks you for the support that you are giving to our work. And finally, I just want to mention that we had the opportunity while there to be working with a youth conference so that we had organized. There were 30, 40 young people from the countries where we work, people between 20, 30, 35, all professionals, all of them. With very difficult stories of suffering, stories of trying to make meaning in life under very difficult circumstances in whatever country they came from, whether it was Ukraine or it was Lebanon or it was India or it was Ethiopia or it was wherever we are working ourselves or with our partners. Again, I thank you for giving help and giving hope to those people. Now, tonight, I want to take this opportunity here. It is a great moment. As you know, I've been trying to also introduce you to the directors here at CNEWA, the executive team here at CNEWA that works so hard to really direct your donations and your generosity. And it is a tremendous privilege I have tonight. And I want to both thank and to welcome Michael Civita, who joins me here this evening. Michael Civita has been working with CNEWA since the 30th of May in the year 1989. So it gives me a great chance to express my gratitude to you, Michael. I've learned a lot from you in my few years here, but to ask Michael to tell us a little bit about his story over these years with CNEWA and perhaps some of the great changes that your department, the Department of Communications, has experienced. And then finally, to tell us about this great moment when at the Catholic Media Conference earlier this month, CNEWA's magazine won, of which Michael is the executive director, won 49 media awards. Michael.
I don't like to talk about myself, but thank you very much, Monsignor. It's a real privilege to be here to join you with your audience. Thank you for tuning in and always for your support and support of the Eastern churches and the work of Catholic Near East Welfare Association throughout some very difficult places in the world. We're grateful. Without you and your support, none of what we do, I think what we do with great pride and tremendous effort would be done or could be accomplished without you and your support. So thank you.
So tell me a little bit about the years, the decades that have passed with all of the work that you have done and the contributions you have made here to CNEWA.
Well, my mother gave birth to me, actually. That's a picture of me when I was born here at CNEWA in 1989. Actually, I started here. It was supposed to be just a few years, a stint, while I figured out what I was going to do when I grew up. I was 24 at the time, and was looking to enter graduate school to focus on, of all things, iconography and the spirituality of the Eastern churches, especially how that spirituality, that culture manifested itself in art, in the art of the icon. And it was supposed to be, as I said earlier, a temporary stint. And sort of like Michael Corleone, the more I tried to get out, the more I was drawn in and I could not leave, because it turned out to be a place that I happen to love. And most importantly, the work it's a constant challenge, and the demands that are placed on us where we work are tremendous, and it's just been a great opportunity to try to meet those demands, those needs, in service to the church always.
Michael, one of the things that I've learned from you in my short time here, and from the experience and the wisdom that you bring to the mission of CNEWA, is the importance of clear branding of our message. Before we look back on the great achievements of CNEWA through the magazine One, looking forward for a moment, are there particular themes that you would want our viewers to maybe be aware of that will be coming up over the next couple of months?
Absolutely. Thank you. Always, we work through the local church. So unfortunately, that's our greatest strength, and it's also our greatest weakness. We don't parachute in anywhere in the world. We always work through the local community. And so because of that work, always through the local church, through the local community, we, I guess, can be invisible at times. And so that messaging, that clear messaging that always stresses the local community, how they identify what the problems are, but also what the solutions could possibly be, and that those solutions can be addressed only because of the support that our family, CNEWA family, provides us. That messaging has to be very, very clear, that it's about people first, more than anything else. People in need, but also the hands of men and women, priests, religious, lay people, who do everything motivated by the gospel, in love, in service of the common good to their communities. So that's number one. It's always about people. The other thing to look forward to, I think, in terms of our messaging, is there are things we don't necessarily put labels on them, but and it's a global fight against global trafficking and other forms of slavery. This is something, probably about 45 million people any day of the year are in some form or fashion enslaved, whether it's in labor, child labor, forced marriages, even to fight in wars, to beg on the streets. It's a major scar in our world, and the church has been at the forefront, particularly our women religious, our sisters, on the ground, working always with the local community to address this issue. And this is something that in our travels together, you have identified very quickly as something that we really need to be even more assertive about, and in our, I hate to use the term branding, but in our messaging, to let you all know how severe this crisis is, and how the church, particularly women, the sisters, are in the vanguard of addressing, not just preventing it and not just working with those who have been trafficked, victims, men, women, children, but also to advocating with governments, with local authorities, to put in place the protocols that exist, or if they don't exist, to advocate for them, so that together the church and the state and other municipalities and organizations can address this issue, so that we can really begin to see an end to this.
Michael, thank you. Now, we are inviting our viewers to be looking over the next couple of months to different ways in which I suspect you are organizing the Magazine One and organizing the other platform that we have,
Yes.
as well as the way in which we're focused on our December 5th second annual gala dinner will all be really focused to a large extent, not only on this, but certainly this will be a major theme.
It certainly will. Thank you, Monsignor. While the July edition of the magazine is currently out, we're, of course, fine-tuning the September edition. The September edition will focus entirely on human trafficking and other forms of slavery, or modern forms of slavery. So that entire edition will address that, from advocacy to prevention to actually working with people who have been victims of this. This is something that we have long been engaged in, but we want to make it much clearer for you so that you, our donors and our friends, understand the priority of this, not just for Catholic Near East Welfare Association, but for the church and for the United Nations, of which we are a part of, and for the global community. This is a real crisis that's impacting us. So we want to address that in the magazine in preparation for, of course, the gala, which will be an opportunity for us to thank two heroes who one from Lebanon, another here in the United States and in Great Britain, who are doing tremendous work to bring this issue to the forefront of Catholic consciences, but not just Catholics, all those of goodwill.
Great. We invite you, as you share with us these moments tonight, to be very aware of the importance of this theme, and that CNEWA for years, but right now is focused, as so many should be, on this question of this plague of slavery and of human trafficking. So we thank you for your support. I'd like now to ask Michael, as the executive director, because any place and every place that I go, if I'm at a conference with Michael, everybody in the press knows him. They immediately come up to him. And so with reason, earlier this month, one magazine received, I think, an unprecedented 49 media awards. Michael, could you please share with our viewers what those were about? And congratulations to you and your whole team.
Thank you.
You've got a great team.
We have a great team here, and there's so many people involved in this, from our writers and photographers in the field, our regional directors who play such a crucial role in identifying the stories that we cover, to our publisher, Msgr Peter Vaccari, who stresses the importance of clear writing and the importance of imagery and getting the word out through methods such as connections with Monsignor Peter, the importance of speaking to the public firsthand in first person, but also allowing the stories to be not just allowing, but permitting and promoting the stories of people out there and the work of the church in addressing them and being with them. The awards was unprecedented. I've been with the organization now entering, I guess, 35 years, and the magazine will be celebrating its 50th anniversary next year. And so in its 49th year to win an award for each one of those years is, as you say, Monsignor, absolutely unprecedented. But again, none of this could happen without the support that you all give to us. This is actually a mandate that was given to us by Pope Pius XI in 1926. And that was to teach, to educate, to inform, and to inspire Catholics, particularly of the Latin Church, about the people and challenges and world of the Christian East, and how the church works to be with them. And so it's a heady challenge, a mandate that's given to us. It's one that we are proud to dedicate ourselves to in communications, but across the board in the agency, everybody has a role to play. And so, yes, 49 media awards. The judges are drawn from the Catholic media, but also the secular media, from academia, as well as those who are publishers, etc. So grateful for them. And there were some particular stories that we thought our co-producer, Tim McCarthy, who's been actively engaged in working with me in the magazine for years, we thought we would start here by looking at what Archbishop Boris Gudziak, He wrote us a letter after his first visit to Buka last year. These are for 2022. So the war had just started. He was there at some point in the spring, and this was a letter that he wrote to us about Buka and the tragedy there, the slaughter. It was a very difficult piece to read. It needed almost no editing because it was so beautifully written, and the photographs were powerful. Ukraine is something that is obviously very much in our consciousness here. The other piece that was important, there were two actually. One, our editor, Laura Arachi, who has been involved in Catholic communications for more than 20 years, beginning with the Vatican, went to Hungary, and there she spent some time with the Greek Catholic Church in its work with Ukrainian refugees who were coming through Carpathia. And really a beautiful story on how the Hungarian community, particularly in the eastern part of the country, have reached out to Ukrainian refugees and provided them with, while it was a duty for them at first, it turned, as she so beautifully wrote in her title, turned to a grace-filled moment. It has turned into a grace-filled moment for the people who are providing support to those who were unfortunately fled from their homes. And then what's also an important component of our work here is the formation of men and women to serve their local communities and to serve the church. And in Ukraine, that meant looking at preparing priests in a time of war. And so the article that received some significant, closer to the people, forming seminarians in Ukraine in times of war. This was a very difficult piece because it was literally happening as the war. The writer was there at the time, and the seminarians, the very first day of the war, had to take cover in the basement of the seminary, which CNEWA actually helped to build. And so it's very much a story born out of crisis. The work that goes into forming these young men to serve the church. So all of these awards, it was a combination of media awards and or multimedia, digital, editing, etc. We're very proud of them, as well as pictures, of course, which tell an important part of our story. Ethiopia is another area of grave concern to us. It's one of the oldest Christian cultures in the world. The story of Abyssinia and Aksum, Prester John, etc., is something that some of our viewers undoubtedly know about from their studies. But the church there is very much alive and under duress. The Catholic Church is tiny, very, very small, but yet it has a disproportionate role to play in terms of education, as well as caring for those who are in great need. In this case, a story of 2 homes for children called Kadani Marat, a reference to a title of Our Lady, and care for children who have been either trafficked or have been deposited at Sister Lutgarda's doorstep. Stories of children who have HIV or AIDS, stories of children who also, as I said earlier, have been trafficked or victims of, and the work of religious, particularly women religious, in healing them and educating them, and the real success of these children after they graduate, the success that they have in serving Ethiopia and serving the common good. Remarkable, hope-filled stories, and we're very proud of them. Cries of Hunger. Our newest staff team member, Olivia Paust, joined us 1 year ago this week. And one of her first assignments was to report for us on the impact of war and also famine, in Ethiopia. Cries of Hunger was her first piece. It won a first place Best Feature Article in Mission Magazines. It also won some best awards for Best Photograph and Title and Lead, and etc. This was a story of, again, how there's a real food crisis, how the population, the most marginalized or vulnerable populations, are suffering, because of the lack of food. And so we're happy that the judges received this as well as they did. It was a pretty powerful piece. Armenia is a very special place in my heart. It's the first Christian country in the world. It is, with Georgia, an incredible place located in the Caucasus Mountains. It's between east and west and north and south. I call it ground zero. And here in an area not far from the Turkish border is a site that actually you and I, Msgr, visited with Thomas Varghese, our director of programs, visited last year, a bright spot, a very important facility for children and their parents, mostly single parents, that is run by Caritas Armenia. And we had this story on assignment even as we were there, and the writer and photographer just did an incredible job in highlighting what really is a bright spot in an otherwise bleak situation for children who are in great need. We have time to talk about Syria? Sure. We also covered Syria in the magazine and on our blog. All of them. The magazine is not just in print, it's also multimedia. There's a multimedia edition that's available in its entirety and more online. So you're always welcome to go to CNEWA.org/magazine to visit us online. There you'll see an incredible story about the Good Shepherd Sisters and others, the Sisters of Besançon, and their incredible work healing families affected by war that now live in Damascus. You can't really get a writer and a photographer into Syria. We were able to do that, and they've done an incredible job in covering that part of the world for us. And finally, a letter from Lebanon. The Little Sisters of Nazareth, their sons and also the little brothers of Charles de Foucault, a great story in itself. They work in a refugee camp. It's the only refugee camp in Lebanon that is not armed. It's also the last all-Christian camp that still exists. It was founded in 1949. We've been there actually before there was even a camp. And the sisters do incredible work with those who live there.
Michael, could you just say something? Oh, you're going to say, here it is.
Spanish. So we launched the Spanish edition. It was an initiative of our web content person who has a long history in Catholic journalism with Mary Knoll as an editor there. He joined our team last year, and we now have a Spanish edition of the magazine, which is a remarkable thing, something we're very grateful for. And actually one of the first stories that we actually assigned in Spanish received an important award in the Spanish categories, a second place for best reporting on social justice issues, as well as an honorable mention for feature writing. So we're proud of that first endeavor, which is now the July edition, which is the Spanish edition for the summer, will be available in just a few weeks, I think, in Spanish.
Michael, congratulations on the enormity of what you have been able to pull together with the communications department, particularly with this award-winning magazine, One.
Thank you.
I thank you for being here tonight, and I hope that you'll come back more frequently so that we can continue this conversation. I want to just take these last few seconds to thank everybody. Number one, you, the viewers, for coming in and for your support. I want to thank in a special way Tim McCarthy, who really is the producer of our monthly connections, along with Nelson, Heimdott, and Nick, who are here every month and make this happen. I thank you guys for your support. I remind everyone of our next editions, Connections, which will be on July 19th. And then you will have the opportunity to meet the man behind all of the images and the screen, Tim McCarthy, our producer. So I look forward to welcoming him here. We will not have a Connections in August, which will allow me, God willing, to make a return visit to Ukraine at that time. But in September, I hope to be back here with Adriana and with Anna, and we'll give you an overview in one show on CNEWA in Ukraine to our partners. Thank you, and best wishes for a safe July 4th weekend.